My name is Jeggan Grey-Johnson, and I'm with the Africa Regional Office, the Open Society Foundation.
Okay, can you share with us, give us a reaction to the engagement which happened in this session?
I think it's a good engagement because, the Pan-African Parliament should largely, or any Pan-African institution should be largely driven by citizens themselves, particularly our Parliament, because MPs, as you know, derive their authority directly from their electorate and from their constituents, which happens to be non-state actors. So as a result, I think this particular initiative, I think it's well overdue. I've been engaging with the Pan-African Parliament since 2009. In that process, or in that time, I have seen it have 3 presidents, from Gertrude Mongella to the representative from Nigeria, and now to Mr. Dang. And I think the evolution of PAP has been checkered. And one of the low points that we've seen in PAP is the fact that the level of interaction with civil society and non-state actors has dwindled. And I think this attempt to resuscitate that engagement is a good one. We've been engaged with the Pan-African Parliament, as I said, since 2009, and in that we've measured some major milestones, which actually is proof that positive results can be registered if a strategic partnership actually occurs between civil society and the Pan-African Parliament.
Okay, from the engagements, there was a lot of talk of these CSOs shying away from PAP, or PAP not being known outside there. What is your advice? How can both institutions come to a situation whereby people on the grassroots have access to both of them?
I think we need to be honest and realize the fact that people on the grassroots, it'll be difficult for grassroots activism to actually have direct access to the Pan-African Parliament. One, if it's a physical location, it'll be expensive because the Pan-African Parliament is supposed to represent almost 1 billion people, but it is situated in South Africa, Midrand, a country where it's quite difficult if you're not a South African, but especially, certainly if you're not from within the SADC region, and even in some instances if you're from the SADC region, to access the country through the visa mechanisms and other things. So that's difficult, and it's costly. However, it's not impossible, because what the Pan-African parliamentarians are supposed to do is that their work is not supposed to stay in Midrand. It often does stay there. It's supposed to percolate down at the regional and the national levels, particularly at the national level, because that is why they are here, representing their citizens and amplifying the voices of their citizens from the national perspective. So the engagement is 2 ways. Pan-African parliamentarians have a duty and an obligation to report back to their parliaments, but more importantly to also engage with their citizens on continental issues. Very few of them do that. I've not seen the evidence where you'd be able to consistently say that this has been happening, so I think that's one thing, which is the reason as to why then there hasn't been that uptake or the resonation of citizens feeling that the Pan-African Parliament and their parliamentarians actually represent them when they come here to Midrand. Secondly, also, I think those that can afford to actually engage with the Pan-African Parliament, whether it's through money or capacity issues that they have, that they can raise to the level of dealing with continental initiatives like the Pan-African Parliament, more often than not don't feel that the Pan-African Parliament is actually representing them, and they don't feel as if whatever agenda that they may have or objectives that they may have they want to advance, whether it's on a programmatic level or whether it's on a more wider level, the wider space that looks at big ticket items, peace and security and otherwise. Some of them don't, a lot of them don't feel that the Pan-African Parliament is actually an institution that'll be able to address those particular issues, given the fact that they think that the Pan-African Parliament doesn't have enough of a strong mandate to be able to do that. And I think that perception is highly misplaced. I think the Pan-African Parliament has the moral authority and the moral voice to be able to hold state parties to account. That is primarily what their job is, to look at ratifications of state parties and the implementation of that. I think secondly also, even the fact that they're here as Pan-African parliamentarians, they're first and foremost national parliamentarians. And in their capacity, in their role as national parliamentarians, they have a right to hold the executive to account. So as a result, they'll be able to advance that continental aspiration through this particular role that they may have. I think also civil society has done itself a great disservice in the sense that we have not embraced the Pan-African institutions that were built for us. We've left it to the leadership and the executive and presidents and other technocrats to basically take the lead, and we have not engaged. And we would rather engage on certain issues with the European capitals, whether it's in London or Brussels, or Westminster or Brussels in the European Parliament, or the European Union, or in Washington, D.C. with the American government, or in New York with the United Nations, rather than looking at ventilating our issues using Pan-African organs, Pan-African institutions, and Pan-African spaces to talk about Pan-African problems.